Hi, it's Marie Sanderson here. I'm here today with David Shilito, and he is the CEO of informationproducts.com. Now, David is like a direct marketing ideas factory in essence, and when we first started this internet marketing game a few years ago, we spoke to David on the phone and we found his information and his guidance really down to earth, really realistic. He cuts through the hype and it really set us on the right path. So we've got a few questions we're going to be asking David today. He's been in the internet marketing game quite a long time now. So a few burning questions that a lot of you might be having out there, and David's going to answer them for us today.
Hey, I'm going to try.
So David is, somebody who's not made money online at this stage, or they've made very little. What would you suggest they do? Would you suggest they can go into big competitive areas such as wealth, or could you suggest they start off in like the smaller niches where there's like less competition?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm sure it's a question that a lot of people ask themselves. They can see that there's money in the big markets like health and so on and so forth, and a lot of the advice that people get is to start off in niche markets. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. My suggestion is that whilst you're learning everything there is to learn, which is impossible, you start off in a niche, something that you know something about. The challenge that most people have is bringing a product to market. A lot of people have got lots of information. They suffer from the idea avalanche. There's no shortage of information, but actually bringing a product to market, getting to that point where they're ready to make the first pound online, sometimes that's a bit like nailing jelly to a mirror. So for the first few projects, I think that which has the greatest chance of success, of coming to completion, is, in my opinion, the best way to start. So lean into who you are, what you already know. I'm not saying that that will be eventually what you end up doing and where most of the money comes from, but as far as making the mistakes early on, what do they say, fail forward fast, then I believe that is the way forward. Let's say, for instance, you've spent 20 years breeding koi carp, then ignoring that, in my opinion, would be a mistake. I think it will be much easier, with a much greater likelihood of success, bringing a product, whether it's a written product or an audio product or a DVD product to market, to do with the definitive guide of breeding koi carp volume 1 or something. That project is much more likely to get completed than trying to learn something that you don't know about right from the get-go. So,
because when we first spoke to you, we were talking about my partner's joinery business, and you suggested about making products along that line, and we did that. We've actually produced 2.
yes.
Which one's going to market this week, and
Yes.
the other one went to market last year. But you're right, you tend to complete it. You can have a bit of an information overload to start with.
Oh, absolutely, it's the information avalanche.
Very indecisive.
Yes, absolutely. It's almost as if the internet is designed to distract you. Everybody suffers from that. I suffer from that.
Yeah.
Sure. So to answer your question, yes, it's that which will be the greatest likelihood of success to actually bring the product to market.
And do you think that will give people the learning skills they need to progress on from there, to maybe make it in bigger areas?
I think so, yes, because if you start off with the idea of creating a product based on what you know about, then by the time you've actually got that product on the market, you will have a Rolodex full of suppliers, you will know what not to do, you will know how to put web pages, you will have had some experience of copy, you will know how to do a bit of marketing to bring people to the web page.
Autoresponders.
Yeah, all these kind of things. So it's the process, the money's in the process. If at the end of the day that product doesn't turn a fortune, that's not the point. The point is that the money in the initial stages is in the process. And at informationproducts.com we try and say to people, don't get distracted, lean into who you are and what you've been doing, and get that first product market ready. Because even if then you abandon it, the process you've been through will be such a strong learning curve, and you will have learnt so much from doing that you will be able to reinvest that knowledge over and over again in all future projects.
Right. Well, that comes on to my next question. Would you suggest?
Trickster.
Yeah. Would you suggest people make their own products? Well, the answer is obviously yes. But when they're starting out, would you suggest they make their own products, or sell affiliate products, or rebrand the other people's products?
Well, that is a great question. People think that the most valuable commodity in the Western world is something like oil or gold, when it's not. In fact, the most valuable commodity in the Western world is people's attention. People's attention. It's very, very difficult to get, very, very difficult to keep. So if you're trying to get the attention of a certain market, the quickest way to make money is to look around and see who else has the attention of that market and lean into whatever it is they're doing. So if you're trying to get the attention of martial artists, then of course a martial arts magazine already has their attention, so taking an advert there would be a sensible way of doing that. The challenge is that when a lot of people get started in internet marketing especially, they pick the ABC 1, 2, 3 greased chute road, which is usually affiliate marketing, selling other people's products. That you'd say, I don't have to make the product, you don't have to worry about the sales copy, hey, I just send people through this link and I'll make some money. The challenge with that is, who are you? Do you have the attention of people who will go, hey, you know, I always read this guy's emails? Will they open the email if it's from you? So if you have people's attention already, then selling affiliate...
You've got people's respect.
Yes,
yeah.
Indeed. Then selling affiliate products is a lot easier. But selling affiliate products right from the get-go, before you have the respect, bravo, exactly this, and people's attention, is difficult, because it's just the sheer white noise out there. I'm sure you've come across it yourselves, have been bombarded with emails from people for all kinds of reasons, and it's like audio wallpaper. Does that sound right? Audio wallpaper? Yeah. It's very confusing. And there will be some emails that you read. You will get emails from some people and you go, you know, I got some value from this person last time. I'm interested in what it is they've got to say. And I believe that that's what should come first. Chris Farrell, for instance, you may have heard of Chris Farrell. He's an advocate of just exactly that process of getting the respect and attention of a group of people who will then accept your recommendation, which at the end of the day, that's what affiliate marketing is.
I suppose if people go for smaller niches, you can gain respect a lot quicker, especially if it's something you already know about.
Yes, absolutely. And
it's a smaller niche, there's less people looking for that product, but it's a way of building credibility quicker than, say, in the money-making niche.
Oh, sure. Yes, from the start. I mean, if you've created a product about something you know something about, then the target audience will go, hey, you know, this lady, this guy knows something about this market. So you've now got their attention, they'll open your emails. So using our koi carp example, if people who are interested in breeding them little fishes, they've been getting information from you about koi carp breeding, and they've learnt something and got value from those emails, then if at the end of another useful experience you say, hey, you know, I've come across this thing, you should check it out, I'm using it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because it's a recommendation from somebody they already have some respect for, and they'll probably buy it.
Yeah.
That's the most efficient way to sell affiliate products. But trying to start off selling affiliate products, this is only my opinion, but I don't think that that's the quickest, easiest way to start making money. I think the quickest, easiest way is to lean into who you are and what you already know. If you're stroking your chin and thinking, well, I know what my life's experiences are, but I can't for the life of me think how I can leverage that into a product that people will buy from Southampton to South Africa, then check me out.
I mean, it doesn't have to be people's trades, it could be something, your child could have a peanut allergy, or...
Oh, absolutely.
So it could be other people's hobbies you know about, but obviously you've got to assess whether there's a market there first. You might be into sort of keeping tarantulas, but obviously there's not going to be much of a market for that. So they have to really
you never know. It's a wild and wacky world out there, and you know, this is a mistake that I made, and a lot of people make this mistake, because you kind of get infused in doctrine, and what's the word? You get intoxicated with the idea that everybody who uses the internet uses it for the same reason you do. No, they don't.
True, yeah.
There are lots of people who only use the internet for researching dinosaur bones. Go figure. So if your passion is koi carp, or your passion is sign language for children, that's where you spend your hours online. And as you know, I've done joint ventures with people like Russell Brunson. He has a product out at the moment, which I'm not going to mention, but that is helping people figure out what it is, what niche markets can be explored, and there are people making £15,000 a month from selling hair bows and tutus for kids. There are people making similar figures from plans about how to make a chicken coop.
Yeah, I mean, the key is, the easy bit's probably making the product, the hard bit is, not hard, but the ways you've got to be clever is the marketing and driving traffic to your offer.
Driving traffic is another question,
we'll
yes.
come on to that as well.
Yeah, okay.
Now, rebranding products, obviously, if you're lucky and you can find a product out that's already been made that suits your particular application, would you suggest people go and buy PLR products and rebrand them as their own, or make their own unique?
I think it's a very valuable tool in the arsenal. I think there's definitely a market for PLR products if they're of good quality. I think the challenge with PLR products is people tend to use the materials that come with them. So they'll use the sales letter that comes with it, they use the graphics that come with it, they won't chop and change it. But if you're going to rebrand it, then rebrand it heavily. Add things to it, rename it, re-articulate it for a different audience. So there is value in PLR, but as I said, most people don't change the product enough. What else was it that you asked me now?
Well, but you've
We've
covered
both
it,
got
really.
notes and we still can't remember.
Yeah. We've covered affiliates, maybe not a good idea for some respects. Making your own, obviously recommended. But just say you've gone down the route, you've gone through a learning curve, you've made a little product, you've promoted it, you've done quite well out of it, or may not be as the case, but it's been a great learning curve.
Yes.
Then somebody says, right, okay, well, I've done this for a while now, I want to enter a bigger niche like diets or health. What would you suggest to people to build the list quickly? Because it's getting the ball rolling initially, isn't it? That's always the hardest part. If somebody's, say, going into money or going into diets, how would they then really get the list built quickly? What's the quickest way, in your opinion?
Well, that's two separate questions. List building is a great question. And if I forget what I've come to, you said just say list building and I'll know where I am. My advice would be to stay away from those huge markets. There is enough money flying past the window in your hometown to retire on 50 times over. There are a lot of people who are really sophisticated with very deep pockets, who have full-time staff dedicating every moment of their working life to getting the attention of people in the diet industry, for instance. And trying to compete with those folks is possible, but again, does it have the highest likelihood of success? In my opinion, and that's all it is, no. Niche markets are very, very lucrative. You can build an ascension ladder. Do your subscribers know what an ascension ladder is? A series of products at ever increasing price points. That is just as easy to do. In fact, sometimes it's easier to do in niche markets than it is in those big markets. So even at my stage, I will think seriously about entering markets like health or weight loss, for instance. You asked about the make money niche.
Yeah.
It's the police. It's the police.
They come together.
Yes. That obviously is a very lucrative niche, so much so that it's not actually a niche. Anybody over the age of 14 in the Western world, when asked the question, would you like more money, is going to say yes. So it's basically everybody. It's you and me, it's everybody watching this today. So it's not really a niche. But ways to help people make money in a niche market, that's a different thing. So you are actually segueing both there. You are concentrating on a niche product, but then helping other people make money in that niche. So, for instance, if you are a doctor, or a dentist, or a solicitor, or accountant, all these people are self-employed, commission only, by the way. No leads provided. They don't see anybody. They
don't get
yes,
paid.
quite so.
Yeah.
So there is the business that you're in, and there's teaching the business that you're in. So if you've been an accountant for 10 years and you've been successful, you know a lot about number crunching, but you also know a lot about how to bring in people to your business. Now that information is very valuable to accountants who are just starting out. You can help them make more money by teaching them to do what it is they already do better, quicker and easier. So you are in the make money business because your customers now no longer the person who wants their accounts doing.
But within a niche.
Yes,
right.
within a niche.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as so much as a conflict. Just make money for the sake of making money. That is a sophisticated business to be in. You can get burned very quickly. I still think that once you've mastered a niche that you know something about, then after selling into that niche, then helping people make money in that niche is, in my opinion, the way to go.
Yeah, if you're just going to sell a product on making money, very general, you're appealing to the mass public, which is a very difficult
You get lost
thing
in
to market.
You get lost in the white noise.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I appreciate what you're saying about teaching people to make money in certain niches. It could be, as you say, doctors, accountants, whatever. Maybe doctors is a bad example, but I think we get the gist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just say, how would those people then build a list quickly? What would you say is the quick fire way? We know forums and blogs and posting comments on blogs. And we know there's ways on the internet, but it can be very time consuming. Most
Yes.
people with the trade haven't got time to sit and do forums 3 hours in the night. And what would you say the quickest way is to?
That's a great question.
It's a question that everybody wants to know the right
That is a
answer
great.
to.
How do I build my list? That's a great question. I think people who are experienced in this industry understand that there are so many people out there that get into them all. I mean, there are people. One of the giants on whose shoulders I stand has banked £50 million and has a list no bigger than 70,000 people. Now, that person understands that with the best marketing, with the best will in the world, you can't get to everybody. So you and I could start off in a similar industry, or indeed in a similar niche, and start off at the same point. But as we're making contacts out there, you will get the attention of people that I won't. One of the great things about this industry is, unlike things that you may have experienced in your working lives, I'm certain that I did, progress is not based on keeping other people down. Progress is based on sitting next to people and sharing resources, which is great. So, to answer your question, in my opinion, the quickest way to build your list is to find other people who are doing the same thing as you, who are trying to get the attention of the same kind of market, and thinking, hey, let's swap values here.
Yeah.
You know, I have 1,000 people who are interested in koi carp. You have 1,000 people who are interested in koi carp.
Let's get together.
I'll bet they're not the same 1,000 people.
Yeah, so it's like a win-win situation for both.
Absolutely, and don't for a moment think that this isn't how the big dogs, the gurus, do this. Absolutely they do. They swap lists, they promote each other's products, and they've refined this to such an art where they sit down around a table, have a few beers and figure out who's launching which product in which month. So there's no conflict.
Right.
It's not, I'm going to launch my new product in January. Well, I won't do that, I'll do it in February. So everybody's promoting everybody else's. Now, people who don't understand this industry sometimes get a bit upset about that. That's because they weren't able to leverage it in their old industry, and it frustrates them. In fact, it's a really, really sophisticated yet simple way of expanding your own business.
That's right,
There's
yeah.
enough out there for everybody.
I mean, we work in a certain niche, and we do joint ventures with very well-known names in a certain industry.
Yes, I know.
And basically it works because their names give us credibility, and they get us customers, really.
Yes.
We're kind of the hosting company in the middle, who do all the marketing, sales and running of the project. So joint venture we can vouch for, it really worked for us right
Yes.
from day one,
Yes.
even as a beginner back a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I'll just say though that I'm sure you'll agree with this, because I do read your blog, and I think your comments are different to a lot of other internet marketers out there, because it's not full of hype.
Oh, thank you.
Generally pretty much down to earth and as it should be.
Thank you.
But there was one on persistence,
Yeah.
and you could go for a joint venture and it could fail. The person might turn you down. It's easy just to walk away with the tail between your legs and forget all about it, but persistence is the key. I'm sure that's one of the philosophies you kind of engage people with. Persistence, persistence, persistence.
Sure.
Don't give up is the key, isn't it?
Absolutely. The world is chock full of talented derelicts. Chock full of them. Talent means nothing. Persistence will overcome talent every time. Keep knocking at the door, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
It is all about persistence indeed. It's very little about talent. It is more to do with ducking, diving, bobbing, weaving and pressing on.
In some ways you have to remove your emotion from the business and almost become a machine and get a few knocks and just don't take it personally.
Sure, absolutely.
That's the key to the business as well.
In the grand scheme of things, and also in microcosm, it's a numbers game. It is, and so if you accept that you're not going to hit, it's almost a baseball metaphor there. It comes from a baseball, I don't know why, but you're not going to hit a home run every time.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game, and if you accept that it is a numbers game, then all you've got to do is keep swinging.
Try and contact
Just
as many
keep
as you
swinging.
can. Do it on a daily basis.
Yes.
And gradually.
Yeah,
You'll...
and carry on learning, of course. You know that one of the other great things about this kind of business is there's never a shortage of people on whose shoulders that you can stand. And because everybody's not protecting their, intellectual, whatever it is, they're not being protective of their business, or everybody's happy to share. Then there's a lot to be learned, because there's enough information out there, indeed free information out there, if you've got the time and motivation to go out and find it. There's enough information out there for you to launch a great business.
So how would you suggest people get noticed? That just say you're going to joint venture with somebody, they might get hundreds of emails a day. Even if it is in a smaller niche, they might get lots of emails. How are you going to get them to sit up and take notice of your joint venture proposal?
Okay, let me understand the question. So we've already ascertained that one of the quickest ways to build a list is to find other people to joint venture with, and obviously now we're not talking about the small koi carp type niche. You're talking about people who've got big lists. How would you get the attention of somebody who has a big list, and therefore they're getting joint venture proposals on a regular basis because they've got a big list?
So if you use that example, that would be a better scenario to. How would you get noticed in that situation?
Well, a joint venture, of course, at the end of the day, is based on two parties bringing something to the table that each of those respective parties can't get on their own. Otherwise, they'd be not motivated to do a joint venture. Of course, most people are motivated. Now, I don't quite know if I should say this. I'm going to leave them in a secret. Most people are motivated by money. Go figure. So, if somebody can see that you are making money for other people, they'll be more inclined to let you make money for them. I know that sounds a little strange, but if you've successfully created a product, built a list, and using the process that we've just discussed, and promoted other people's products, and they can see that you've made money for them. You may have noticed that when you get emails from, if you become an affiliate for somebody's product, then the owner of that product will send emails out to their joint venture partners, saying, "Hey, this is this is going really well, and if you promote our product, you make so and so." And they also let you know who's doing well promoting the other person's product, because people see those names. And if your name appears on there, people think, this person can help us. They might not have the same size list as we do, but we should joint venture with them.
Sometimes it's not the size of the list, is it? It's the responsiveness of the list.
Absolutely. There are some people out there with huge lists, but the response is poor.
And if you're in a smaller niche, you're probably going to find it easier to joint venture with people, because they may not have even heard of joint venturing, perhaps, if it's a very small niche. And they might think, that sounds great, I'm going to get money out of this, and I'm not really doing very much.
Absolutely. You wouldn't believe the number of people who are in business who don't do database marketing, they don't harvest testimonials, and they don't do any strategic alliances or joint ventures at all. This is voodoo to them, which to people like us who are in this business is like second nature. It's like, well, yes, obviously you're going to do this. But to a lot of folks out there who've come from, they've never even heard of such a thing. The idea of metaphorically getting into bed with somebody who's in the same industry and sharing resources and creating these joint ventures, that'd be totally alien. But in fact, it's a very quick and easy way of doing business.
It has been known to offer 50% of your profits to that joint venture partner in some cases?
Or more, yes. Or more, absolutely, because they are bringing you something that you wouldn't have otherwise had. And that is the nature of it. I mean, if you are going to bring customers to me for a product which, let's say, sells for £100, I'd be quite happy to give you £70 of that. Why? Because that will keep you happy. You'll promote that quickly, and you'll promote it hard. But also, I will have covered my costs, but then I get a new customer that I can sell products to from now till, the end of time.
So basically, if you start in niches, you can also gain experience of joint venturing, can't you?
Absolutely. Do not
get that ball rolling and start to feel confident with joint venturing people and the whole idea behind it.
Yes, quite so. There's nothing wrong with approaching people for joint ventures. Just be aware that if what you are bringing to the table they can already get, they don't really have a reason to joint venture with you. But usually, not always, but usually joint ventures consist of a product and a list. Now of the two, the harder one to get is the list. So the person with the list is generally in control. If you have a decent sized list, then you will be constantly approached for joint ventures with people who have a product. And you have the pick of the products to promote. So yes, the money's in the list, build the list first.
Or offer something extra perhaps, like, I don't know, an audio with them to promote them in different ways, or...
Absolutely, yes. There was 101 ways to be creative,
Yeah.
and this information is pretty easy to get, because it's not super secret squirrel stuff, but you have to be excited about the idea of going out there and finding these things, and if you are, it's not a difficult business to be in.
No, just
Did that answer your question? Did I go off on a tangent?
And also, yeah,
sometimes?
definitely answered the question.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just go back to the smaller niches again.
Yes.
We tend to be focusing on these quite a lot, but just say you're promoting, I don't know, a karate product or something where you think there's no back-end product here, so maybe $47. You can't really think of a more expensive product to promote to them after that. Would you suggest there's even any point in building a list? I mean, why don't you just sell and forget? Is there any point in keeping a list if you're not going to sell to them again?
In my opinion, always.
Always build a list.
Always build a list. I understand what you're saying, that you've built a list of people in martial arts who bought a £47 product from you, and maybe you've got 100, 500 or 1,000 people who bought that product. I guess you're suggesting that if there's no natural back end to that product, then where can you go from it? Well, a moment ago we were discussing how other people want to lean into what it is, what your assets are. If you've got a list of 1,000 people who've bought a martial arts product, well, I tell you what I'd do. I'd go to Barnes & Noble or WH Smith's, I'd pick up a martial arts magazine, of which there are lots, and I'd see who's advertising. Because every single one of those advertisers whose contact details are in the ad, they all want access to your list. You have what they want. You have the attention of people who have proven to buy, pretty much on impulse, a martial arts product at a certain price point in the last 12 months.
So you've got yourself
That's gold. Yes.
Yeah.
So the list is an asset. Might not be to you, you might not have another product to sell them, but the number of people who, sometimes you have to explain it to them, but the number of other people who are trying to sell into that market makes that list gold to them.
So would you just sell the list and they've got all the rights to it?
No, I would not. Great question. No, it's a mistake that a lot of people make. No, I wouldn't. I would rent them the list for one-time use, or I would do a joint venture whereby I say, hey, you've got this product, but you're trying to sell into this exact market. I'll promote it to my list for 50% of the revenue. That way they never actually see the list. And this is the way a lot of business is done, and of course anybody who buys becomes their customer. But to answer your question, is it worth building lists in niche markets? Absolutely. In fact, there are some business models that focus just on building lists. They're not actually selling a product that makes a profit. The whole exercise of building the list is to break even.
And especially if it's a fairly recent list, you know, if you're maybe a couple of years old or something like that, or a year old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're going off. I know a lot about lists, but I'm not sure we have time for this today.
No.
But yes, you will pay more for. We're not talking. Are we talking about email lists now, or mailing lists for people's names and addresses?
I suppose both, really. I suppose the names and addresses are more powerful.
Yes,
in one sense.
physical names and addresses are more powerful because people tend not to move house, whereas email addresses get dumped and get spam filtered and so on and so forth. So the actual land-based name and address of somebody to me is worth 20 email addresses all day long. But then my background is in direct mail, and I find that when it comes to marketing physical products or even digital products, marketing offline and then doing the selling online is a good way to go. That's just me. It avoids the white noise of internet marketing.
Yeah. I did read something recently on your blog or somewhere along the line. You mentioned that some open rates of emails can only be 18%. So you've got a list of 1,000, and only 18% of those, potentially 1,000, are going to open your emails. So
yes.
we're talking about promoting along other ways. Would you suggest that direct mail is more effective then than email marketing?
I believe it's more effective, yes, for several reasons. First of all, there's a lot less direct mail around now than there used to be, so I'm sure you are getting less mail on your doormat than you used to do. Secondly, when something drops through the letterbox and lands on your mat, you look at it. I do, everybody does. Now, you may sort your mail over the bin, but everything gets looked at. If what you're sending through the mail is something that doesn't need opening, maybe it's a postcard, every single person you send that postcard to is going to look at it. That's a 100% open rate. They may not take action on what they read, but if the copy is good enough, they will go to the address. Now that's like saying if the copy in the email is good enough, they'll click the link. But hey, getting somebody to read the email in the first place and then click the link, that's already, as you've quite rightly said, a difficult thing to do because of the open rates. There are many great autoresponders, list management systems like iContact, GetResponse, Aweber. I'm sure you've heard of some of these. One that I use is Aweber, and they have systems in there that not only help you maintain and clean the list, but also allow you to broadcast to the list. So once you send out a broadcast to your list, there are statistics available. Now don't worry about statistics, I mean I'm not a number cruncher myself, but with a few clicks within their system you can see not only how many people open that email, but you can also see who it was. Plus, you can make a list of people who didn't and mail to them again with a different subject line. You can keep doing that until nearly everybody's... It's a bit long and laborious, but knowing those statistics is very valuable. Now, Aweber themselves put on their site that as an industry average, an industry standard, I think it's something like 13.8% of emails get opened. So
I don't know about anybody else out there, but I tend to get emails from lots of people.
Yeah.
And it can be a month before I open it. I'll go back and I remember there was an email. So, you know, I was just going to say, be aware that you might check your Aweber and see only 18% opened and these are who they are. But it takes some people a little while to get round to opening them as well.
Yes, that's a very valid point. You know, I think to some degree it depends on how many emails you get. If you're like me and you get 400 a day, they get a nanosecond. Yeah. Bang, 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 bang. If you don't get that many emails, then yes, you may store them, you may go back and look at them, but I think once you're past a certain point, one of the challenges with email, if it's not read first time out the gate,
most people won't read
then it's clicked and gone.
Yeah. So what would you say to people out there who really want to do sort of direct mail, but they're worried about the cost, because you could typically be looking at £600 for £1,000, you know, people mailed. What if people really haven't got that money out there, but they want to get the ball rolling? Would you suggest be careful with the list you choose, or maybe try it and see? What would your advice be there?
Well, that's another great question.
It's a big investment really to a lot of people.
It can be, yes. It's like, it is an investment. It's like a risk and return thing. The potential returns from direct mail are much higher than email marketing, but the risk you're taking does revolve around the list that you are sending your communications to. So it is a method of direct marketing that can cost more, but has a far higher return. So can you do successful direct marketing, marketing through the mail, direct mail, with no investment at all? No. No.
It's basically a risk. I mean, you've got to have your listing, the people right, you've got to have your posting right, your actual card or your letter, and you've also got to have your offer on your website right. Sort of the three key ingredient, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Really make sure everything's set up correctly before you take that risk.
Well, you know, getting the right offer, getting the right copy, getting your conversion ratios up and things like that are separate issues. You're going to have that challenge whether you're selling whether people coming to your sales message have come from direct mail or they've come through email or what have you. You're still going to have those challenges, and you know that is a whole other seminar we could talk about later if you wanted.
That's right. Yeah.
But as for a cost-effective way of marketing, if it wasn't cost-effective, then big companies wouldn't do it. And you look at your own experience. At the risk of repeating myself, the number of offers for things that interest you that land on the mat. If your passion is breeding koi carp, how much koi carp stuff lands on your mat? Not much.
Yeah.
So
You're
it's,
gonna catch their
yeah, it's going to get all your attention. Plus, of course, I don't know, if you're like me, although the internet is great and email is great, reading something on a screen is not natural. And this is why whole industries have grown up around figuring out how people skim and why they skim sales pages. But if you're sending something through the mail, then people do this with it. They'll read it, they'll put it down, they'll take it to the loo, they'll take it to bed, they'll ponder it, they'll reread it. So your message gets consumed, which is often a challenge
I
with
find
internet
sometimes
marketing.
if you get long sales letters, I'll often print them out.
Yes.
Because I find it just too much to read. But if I'm really interested, I'll sit there at night, watch the telly with a cup of coffee and read through it.
Yes.
Much more relaxing, or you digest it more, don't you?
Yes, and your message gets consumed.
Yeah.
So all these things have to be weighed up. All I can say is that some of the most well-known internet marketers, although they don't talk about it much, have had a solid grounding in direct mail.
So when it comes to, say, article marketing, that's quite a big thing these days, writing lots of articles, chucking them on loads of article sites, there's loads out there, press releases online, all hard work. You don't have to do all of it yourself, of course. You can get good old Elance to do that for you. But would you suggest this is effective, you know, article marketing, press releases online, backlinks? Again, that's a big area, but
Yes.
if you're in a very competitive niche, it may get you nowhere because others are there before you. But would you think people should invest their time scrubbing up loads of articles?
I'm trying to sell to people like me, so I tend to look at what my habits are. I understand that if you go in fishing you have to bait the hook with what the fish likes, not what you like, but I don't read press releases. Do you read press releases?
No, I was thinking more for the backlinks. No, I don't.
Right, so, and for that reason, I mean, there are many ways to skin a cat, and I'm sure that you'll be able to find other people who've made a fortune from the press release model. Me personally, I never have, because I never read press releases, and therefore it's not a way that people who are bringing values to the market that I may want are going to ever communicate with me. Article marketing is a different thing. A lot of people take a look at article marketing thinking that people will be going onto sites like easyinarticles.com and reading the article and hopefully clicking the link at the bottom. But I don't think many people, let me rephrase this because I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. I believe the title of the article is the most important thing. If the title of the article is articulated to be exactly what people search for instance on Google, how do I, or something similar, if the title of the article is in exact harmony with what people actually search for, then it will pull that from easy articles and that will get you up the rankings.
People see it on the search engine.
Yes, absolutely so. All you're doing really is introducing an extra hop. So you're taking them from the search to the article, and then they're reading the article and hopefully clicking the link at the bottom, which is what people do with blog posts. It's a pretty similar kind of thing, but blog posts tend to get scrubbed from Google pretty quickly, and easy articles tend to stay around a lot longer.
Yeah.
So it's worked for me, and I know that it's worked for you. So there is value in that marketing method. The one tip that I would hand on would make sure that the title of the article is what people actually search for. Even if it looks a little strange as a title to an article, if it's in harmony with what people actually search for, then that is going to show up on the searches when people search for that.
Well, we recently did a bit of an experiment, and long story, but a long time ago I wrote a bit of a book in a certain area.
You got round to writing a book?
Well, it was in my previous business, so I used it recently in internet marketing, and I cut it into, was it 18 articles, maybe 20, and then we submitted it to Elance, said, right, can you chuck these onto all these article sites with a backlink to our videos and website, and we went from, was it the bottom of page 2 right up to position 5?
Yes.
Within about a month. Now, we don't know whether that, it's a bit of an unknown, isn't it?
It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma.
Yeah, you can't clearly see
Sometimes.
was it that did it, but it coincided with us doing that article marketing. So in my opinion, it work.
Yes,
But
well,
you have to have the time to write all these articles, or buy content, or get the content free.
well,
from
Google
someone.
certainly likes articles, and it certainly likes easyinarticles.com because it's it's content.
Yeah.
And at the moment, Google is going bonkers to try and flush out sites that don't provide what they consider to be value and good content. So obviously an article is the definitive content medium, so this is why articles do quite well at the moment. They're such a fickle company, they may change their mind next month.
Yeah, and I suppose if you get the articles linking from relevant sites,
Yes.
Good sites that relate to your niche, that's even more powerful, isn't it?
Yes, quite so. And as you alluded to earlier on, it can seem like one can quickly get overwhelmed about all these different things that need to be done, but there are people around the block or even at the other side of the world who are just sat there waiting to do work for you. And because of the way that their economies are in those countries, like India for instance, there are perfect English speaking college educated people who work in India for £3 an hour. There are summer folks in those countries who will work for you exclusively, your employee, for $200 a month.
Like your virtual assistant.
Absolutely so. So certainly don't be afraid of that, because you think, that's a good idea, I could really do with having 50 articles out there on the various e-zine article type sites on this topic. I'm sure you will let people know where it is that they can go for that. And
we went to Elance and it was $50 for putting about 120 articles on. So
yes.
We couldn't do it. Me and Stephen couldn't do that sat at home for $50. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, put the cook in the kitchen.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So we've covered quite a lot there, David. I'm just trying to think. What else have we got to cover? Facebook and Twitter. This is a great one as well. The thing about online internet marketing is you become really overwhelmed with forums and article marketing and online press releases, Facebook and Twitter, and you're supposed to be doing all of them, and no physical person can actually do that. They probably kill themselves within about a week. But would you suggest people spend time on Facebook and Twitter and trying to build the businesses in that way?
Again, these are only my opinions, so I'm sure you will have no shortage of people saying, hey, yeah, I make a fortune on Twitter. But there aren't many of them. Twitter to me is like for people who can't be bothered writing a blog or don't have enough to say on a blog post. Coming from a direct marketing background, it's my contention that you need to take as much space as you need to tell your story and no more. Now Twitter allows 148 characters or something like that. Yeah, I think a Twitter post is something like 148 characters. There are probably people screaming at the screen now going, it's 146, you chump. I can't say what it is I need to say to snaggle somebody's attention and give them enough information for them to go, that's for me. In that short number of characters. It is possible to hang a picture hook with a golf club. It's possible, but oh boy, is that the wrong tool. So trying to do direct marketing using Twitter, in my opinion, the format's wrong. The amount of space you get to tell your story is wholly inadequate, and also I believe that the context is wrong.
Yeah, it works for some then and not for others.
There are people who've decided that their next product is going to be how to make money with Twitter products. So they'll be thinking of all the reasons why you can instead of all the reasons why you can't, and they will be putting that into a product and selling it to people. I'm sure it sells very well. But me personally, my personal experience is that I've no interest in Twitter.
Yeah, you said to us when we came in, there's many ways to skin a cat. It seems a long-winded way to go about things. Like, as you say, direct mail hits the nail on the head.
Yes, and also, as we discussed just now, paper has longevity, whereas a tweet does not. And you also have to ask yourself, what is your target demographic? What type of person, whose attention are you trying to get? Is that person on Twitter? And the answer for me is no. Now, you also asked about Facebook. Now, Facebook is a slightly different animal. The challenge with Facebook is It is ever changing. It's changing all the time. It's growing and growing at an exponential rate. At time of recording, there's 500 million people on there, which would make it the third largest country in the world if it was a country. But it's constantly morphing into something else. So what Facebook would look like 12 months from now, I've no idea. I mean, people are trying to use a social network for marketing. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, because there's a lot of people, and who doesn't want access to that number of people, right? And they are constantly battling against the fact that the context is wrong. People are on Facebook to nosy, to see what the friends are up to and to look at pictures. So to interrupt them with a commercial message is like walking up to somebody on the beach or trying to pitch an MLM at a party. You're like, but people have got around this, and of course Facebook are monetizing their platform by having Facebook ads, which can work very well. If you wanted to talk to me at some great length at another time about Facebook ads, I mean, indeed do have Facebook ads running, but I use them in a slightly different way. The challenge with Facebook, as far as I'm concerned, is they have legions of developers whose job is to develop. So it is by necessity always going to be changing form and changing shape. I mean, at the time we're recording this, they've just announced that FBML, Facebook Markup Language, which is what a lot of people were focusing on building pages and building apps and making tabs and making boxes and trying to monetize. Oh, all out the window.
So it's a bit like HTML that Facebook.
Yes. Now they've completely done away with that. Now they're doing iframes. So all the work that people have done with that. Now who knows what this is going to morph into 12 months or what have you. I mean, you know, Goldman Sachs have just said, here's $1 billion, do what you like with it. It's at time of recording, it was valued at $50 billion. Who knows what this is going to look like in the future? So my personal opinion, for what it's worth, is if you use it stealthily and use it what it's good for at the moment, then there are some pickings to be had there. But for a long-term strategy, I think that, like athletes, doing the basics very well is more important.
But even Facebook in itself is a bit of a minefield to a beginner, because, okay, you've got a Facebook link on your website, join us on Facebook, so a lot of people do that, but building your friends can be a little bit hit and miss. You know, personally, what I do is I go on to other people who I know are in my niche, this or Steve, you know, whichever one we're working on, and we will look at their friends and ask them to join our list. But then you get a message saying, no more, you're not allowed, because this could be spamming, so then you've got to leave it a couple of days. So building lists can take a little bit of time. And then, you know, my big question is, do we just kind of keep posting every day? Oh, I'm having a cup of tea by the seaside, it's lovely. And, oh, one of the kids, you know, broke the leg today, or, you know, that general conversation, trying to socialise with all these people that you don't really know because they're just Facebook friends. That's always been my personal grudge with it. What you're supposed to tell all these people that you don't really know, they're just like virtual friends. So
yes,
you've got to be very subtle.
Well, it does come back to what we were saying earlier about having people's attention. If you are well known in a niche, then people will come looking for you. And also because they know that you know what you're talking about and you've given value in other arenas, when you make a post, they will read it and follow it. So it comes back to this question of who are you? And that's best built elsewhere. That's just my opinion. They have this challenge, and Facebook have this great challenge that it is being built as a social network, a network for socialising, and yet it needs to be monetised. They need to encourage people to find a way of commercialising these eyeballs, and they're constantly in conflict with this idea, well, you know, we don't want to put commercial messages in people's faces because that's not keeping in with the ethos, but we quite like a slice of that advertising pie, and so they're constantly trying to find ways of monetising the platform without changing the basic social networking ethic, which for me indicates that it will, who knows what Facebook is going to look like in 1 year or 2 years time.
So what you're saying is don't ignore it, it's good. you know, it's more of a feasible platform than Twitter.
If you want to set aside 4 hours a week to figure out what the method du jour is on Facebook, then I don't think that will be a bad use of time.
Right.
But handing yourself over to Facebook marketing is, in my opinion, a mistake.
Right. Solely, yeah.
Yes, I mean, if you want me to explain briefly why I believe that, then I'm quite happy to do so.
That'd be great, because it expands on, so Facebook's quite a big thing now.
Yes, yes, quite.
If
Well,
you've
it will
got
need
time to
me standing up. You don't have to move there. Just
Okay.
let
As
me
long
go
as I
and...
can stay
No,
seated.
you don't have to move that. Let me go and grab something.
I was going to ask you about Yellow Pages.
Yellow Pages. Now, you would think that this would be dead by now. You know, everybody's on the internet. The Yellow Pages internet version, yell.com, is indeed struggling. But the Yellow Pages, look, it's just as thick as it ever was. Why is that? The reason is because anybody who picks up the Yellow Pages, they are not picking this up to browse. They've already made the decision to buy. They know what it is that they want, and now they're looking for a vendor to supply it. So anybody who actually opens the Yellow Pages has what's called a high commercial intent. A high commercial intent. They've already decided to buy something and they're just looking for a vendor with a good advert to supply, right? Now Facebook is the polar opposite. People are on Facebook to see what their friends are up to, look at photos and chase up old flames. That's why people are there. They have an exceedingly low commercial intent. They are not there to buy anything. So one of the challenges of advertising, commercialising Facebook is you are trying to shift people's paradigm. You are trying to introduce a commercial aspect when people aren't there to buy. Now, this leads to an interesting paradox. Because you can target ads on Facebook so well, so specifically, that is one of the beauties of advertising on Facebook. If you want to advertise just to women aged between 35 and 45 in Wisconsin who have a cat, you can do that. Which is wonderful. You're not able to do that with any other platform. That's a fantastic thing. But because the context is wrong, people will click the advert if it's well targeted, and they will go and have a look at what it is, but because they're not on that site to buy, their commercial intent is as low as it can get. The click-through rates to your ads might be quite high, but the conversions are really, really poor. Very poor, because of context. It's the polar opposite of Yellow Pages. The other challenge, of course, is, let's say, for instance, I live in Leeds, in Yorkshire, in the UK. Let's say, for instance, I was a golfer, and somebody in another county or in another country decided they wanted to sell me a golf product, and because I'd put on my profile on Facebook that I was interested in golf, they quite rightly target their golfing product advert at me. So whilst I'm on there doing other things, I notice that there's an advert for a golfing product. Now let's say they've created a great advert with a great graphic, which is 80% of a Facebook ad. Above the graphic is a question, which is the question above, and the picture is at least 90%. And they get my click, and I'm like, whoa, what's that all about? So I see it, it's exactly targeted to my interest, golf, so I click on that. Now, irrespective of whether I buy that product or not, I probably won't, not because it's not a good product, but because the context is wrong. But whether or not I buy that product, next time I come on Facebook and I see that ad again, am I going to click it? No. Why would I?
You've done it once.
I've done it once already. I know where it goes. So whether I bought or not, I'll only click it once. So if you've got a Facebook ad, this is what you'll find. A high click-through rate and a year big drop-off. So unless you're going to get into the science of cycling ads, constantly changing graphics, constantly changing copy, then be prepared for this. Very low conversions and a very quick drop-off.
But you said you do have some Facebook ads out there.
Yes.
But do they work then or not?
I think if you're using Facebook ads to take somebody to a Facebook page, so if you've started a group or a forum about something particular,
I've got you. Yeah.
and you use the advert to bring them to that works a charm.
Keep them within Facebook.
Yes.
Just take them to your page.
Yes.
Right. Got
Yeah.
you.
Now that works very well.
Yeah.
Then you're commercialising further down the line, but to try and sell them right from the get-go, in my opinion, it doesn't work.
You actually answered my next question. So I'm going to talk about setting up pages. So
Right.
if you're a business, it's great to have a personal profile and a page where it's dedicated to your business. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I believe that's what people do. I'm not that sophisticated. I am me. So, but yes, there are people who do have two profiles, and their lists near the twain shall meet.
Yeah. So okay. So we've covered a lot of ground there. Is there any other magic keys you could give people when it comes to promoting product? We talked a lot about direct mail, Facebook, Twitter. Is there any other magic keys out there that can drive traffic to their offer?
Oh, traffic! Oh, crikey! How long have you got?
Well, this is it. If you had to say it in like a couple of sentences.
Oh, you trickster! Covering traffic in a couple of. I think.
Maybe 1 minute.
Okay. I would come back to something that I said earlier. The most valuable commodity in the Western world is people's attention. People's attention. So, if you've got people's attention, then you can leverage it over and over. If you can't get people's attention, then you can find somebody who has the attention of people you're already trying to target. That's the quickest, easiest, fastest, greased chute way of getting some traction. Is by looking at who else has the attention of your target market. Of course, you can do that in a simplistic way by seeing who else is advertising to them. If a particular niche interest has enough followers that can support a magazine, because the content of magazines is there for the ads, nothing more.
And if there's a magazine, there's a market.
Yeah, absolutely. If there are people advertising, supporting the magazine, then that is a quick way to get the attention of your niche market. So if there's 1 or 2 or 3 magazines on your topic, then that's a good indicator of it being a good niche to go into, and you can build a list that way. That is a great way to build a list. Of course, once you've built a list, then you can go back and have a look at the advertisers, and the advertisers then become your customers, or forgive me, become your joint venture partners.
Well, I think that's sound advice actually, and we know from experience that joint ventures work, and we've done exactly that.
Yes.
We've gone to magazines in the past and joint ventured with some people advertising in there. So I just want to say today, thank you ever so much, David. You've given me some fantastic advice.
You're welcome. We could talk for hours here, but apparently the average attention span is 42 minutes,
right.
so I think we may have run over
So we've probably gone over that, but maybe you could stop it and come back later to watch the rest. But thank you ever so much. Really appreciate it.
Not at all. You're more than welcome. I know you guys are doing great things on the internet, and I'm following what it is that you're doing, and we'll definitely be doing joint ventures in the future for sure. We've got a lot of common ground, and those are some great questions that your subscribers and followers are asking. So, I mean, there are so many topics that we could talk on, and I do have a lot of other things to share. I hope that folks have got something out of what we've said today, like the Facebook context thing about high and low and commercial intent, that kind of thing. When I first heard that, it made me stroke my chin. I thought, that's interesting. It's the context. So just that kind of thing. But this kind of information is available.
I think with Dave, sorry,
no, not at all.
Interrupting people. With David, I think he kind of manages to see beyond, how can I say it? He can see how the customers think, and I think that's why he's done so well with his business, informationproducts.com, because he gives really sound advice where he can see where the customers are coming from, and I think that's half the battle, putting yourself in your customer's shoes, and if you can do that, you can sell anything. So thank you so much, David.
Not at all. It's a case of seeing what other people can see but thinking what nobody else has thought. There are a lot of people saying exactly the same things, so I try and differentiate myself by saying things that make people go, I hadn't actually thought of that.
Yeah, you get that. Oh yeah.
And a lot of it is hiding in plain sight. It really is. So, no, this has been great. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.